The morning sun streamed through the worn windows of the corner diner, casting long shadows across the checkered linoleum floor. Ashley Wilson wiped down the counter for what felt like the 100th time that day, her movements precise and practiced. What happened 3 months later would change everything, but for now, she was just another small-town waitress trying to make ends meet. "Table 4 needs their check, Ash," called Katie Smith from behind the coffee machine, her voice cutting through the gentle hum of morning conversations. Ashley nodded, smoothing her apron as she approached the elderly couple who'd become regular since she started working at Tom Anderson's diner 6 months ago. Harold and Betty Martinez always ordered the same thing: scrambled eggs, wheat toast, and black coffee for him, oatmeal and orange juice for her. "Here you go, folks," Ashley said, placing the check face down beside Harold's coffee cup. Her voice carried that warm, practiced tone that made customers feel at home. "Thank you, dear," Betty smiled, patting Ashley's hand gently. "You always take such good care of us." The bell above the door chimed, and Ashley's blood ran cold. She knew that confident stride, that expensive suit, that perfectly styled hair. James Bradford walked into the diner like he owned it, his eyes scanning the modest interior with barely concealed disdain. He hadn't changed much in 2 years, still carried himself like the world owed him something, still had that cold smile that never reached his eyes. What he did next would make her realize exactly how much she'd underestimated him. James slid into a corner booth, not bothering to look at the waitress approaching his table. Ashley's hands trembled slightly as she grabbed her notepad, but her voice remained steady. "Good morning. Can I start you off with some coffee?" James glanced up, and for a moment, recognition flickered in his eyes. Then it vanished, replaced by that familiar look of superiority Ashley remembered all too well. "I suppose, though I doubt it's anything close to what I'm used to." Ashley poured his coffee, the silence stretching between them like a taut wire. He still didn't remember her face, but she remembered every word from their last conversation 2 years ago. "Ashley, you're just not management material. Frankly, I'm not sure you're suited for any real responsibility. Some people are meant for bigger things. Others, well, others serve coffee." "What can I get you to eat?" Ashley asked, her pen hovering over her notepad. James barely looked at the menu. "Do you have anything that doesn't look like it came from a truck stop? I'm opening a real restaurant in this town next week, Bella Vista. Maybe then people will know what quality dining actually looks like." Katie shot Ashley a concerned glance from across the room, but Ashley's expression remained calm, almost serene. She'd learned the power of silence, the strength that came from not reacting. "I'll bring you our breakfast special," Ashley said quietly. "Make sure the eggs aren't overcooked. I can't stand sloppy preparation." James waved her away like she was an annoying fly. Tom Anderson emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on his apron. He'd been watching the interaction from the pass-through window, and the tight set of his jaw suggested he wasn't pleased with what he'd witnessed. "Everything all right out here, Ash?" Tom's voice carried the protective tone of someone who genuinely cared about his employees. "Fine, Mr. Anderson, just serving breakfast." Ashley's smile was steady, but Tom caught the slight tension in her shoulders. James finished his meal in silence, making a show of checking his expensive watch. When Ashley brought his check, he placed exact change on the table. No tip. "You know," James said, standing and straightening his tie, "this place really captures the charm of small-town dining. Very authentic." His tone made it clear that authentic was not a compliment. As he reached the door, James turned back with that cold smile. "Oh, and Waitress, when Bella Vista opens next week, maybe you should come by. You could see what real service looks like. Though I suppose everyone has their limitations." The door chimed shut behind him, leaving a silence that felt heavier than before. Katie rushed over, her face flushed with indignation. What a complete jerk. Did you know that guy? Ashley collected the plates from James's table, her movements calm and deliberate. We have history. Well, I hope his fancy restaurant fails miserably, Katie muttered, refilling the coffee machine with more force than necessary. Ashley said nothing, but something in her expression had changed. There was a quiet determination there, a spark that hadn't been there before. What changed everything wasn't anger, it was purpose. Ashley's small apartment above the flower shop was modest but neat. She sat at her kitchen table, laptop open, surrounded by textbooks and certification materials she'd been studying in secret for months. The county health department website glowed on her screen. She'd been preparing for this moment longer than anyone knew. The online courses, the weekend seminars, the practice exams, all leading to her certification as a health and safety inspector. James had taught her something valuable 2 years ago. Sometimes the best revenge wasn't getting mad, it was getting credentials. Her phone buzzed. A text from Katie. Heard Bradford's restaurant is having its grand opening this weekend. Wanna avoid downtown? Ashley typed back, Actually, I think I'll check it out. She closed the laptop and pulled out a manila folder. Inside were her official certification documents, still crisp from the printer. Ashley Wilson, Certified Food Safety Inspector, County Health Department. Some people served coffee, others served justice. Bella Vista buzzed with opening night energy. James Bradford moved through the dining room like a peacock, greeting guests and basking in the attention his upscale restaurant was receiving. Crystal chandeliers cast elegant light over pristine white tablecloths, and the air hummed with the kind of sophisticated conversation James had always craved. Mr. Bradford, the mayor's table is ready for their wine selection, announced Steve Collins, the restaurant manager, his voice barely audible over the classical music floating from hidden speakers. James straightened his tie, surveying his kingdom with satisfaction. This was what success looked like. This was what separated the winners from the waitresses. The hostess, Amanda, approached with a slight frown. "Excuse me, sir? There's someone here from the county health department. They'd like to speak with you." James's confident smile faltered for just a moment. "Health department? But we passed all our inspections." "She says it's a routine follow-up inspection, something about verifying compliance standards." James smoothed his jacket, his composure returning. "Of course, send her over. I'm sure everything is in perfect order." Amanda nodded and disappeared toward the entrance. James turned back to his guests, but something cold had settled in his stomach. He'd cut a few corners during setup, made some compromises to meet his opening deadline. Surely nothing serious enough to warrant concern. Ashley Wilson approached James Bradford's table with the same measured step she'd used as a waitress, but now she carried a clipboard and wore a badge that reflected the restaurant's ambient lighting. Her hair was pulled back professionally, and she wore a crisp blazer that commanded respect. James looked up from his conversation with the mayor, and for the second time, recognition flickered in his eyes. This time, it stuck. "Good evening, Mr. Bradford. I'm Inspector Wilson from the County Health Department." Ashley's voice was calm, professional, with just the slightest emphasis on her title. "I need to conduct a compliance verification of your establishment." The color drained from James's face. His mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air, but no sound came out. The mayor looked between them, sensing tension but not understanding its source. I'm sorry, do we know each other?" James managed to stammer, though his voice suggested he very much hoped they didn't. "We've met," Ashley replied evenly, clicking her pen. "Shall we begin the inspection?" James excused himself from the mayor's table, his hands visibly shaking as he led Ashley toward the kitchen. The confident stride was gone, replaced by the uncertain shuffle of a man who suddenly realized he was no longer in control. "Listen, if this is about what I think it's about," James began in a harsh whisper. "Mr. Bradford, this is a routine health and safety inspection. Nothing more, nothing less." Ashley's tone was perfectly professional, but her eyes held a glint of something that made James's palms sweat. Ashley moved through Bella Vista's kitchen with the methodical precision of someone who knew exactly what to look for. She checked temperatures, examined storage procedures, and documented violations with the same careful attention she'd once given to coffee orders. "Temperature in your walk-in cooler is 43 degrees. Health code requires 38 degrees or below," Ashley noted, writing on her clipboard. Chef Antonio looked nervously between Ashley and James. "The unit's been acting up, but we thought cross-contamination in your prep area, raw chicken stored above ready-to-eat vegetables." Ashley's pen moved steadily across her inspection form. James watched in horror as violation after violation was documented. Each check mark on Ashley's clipboard felt like a nail in the restaurant's coffin. Hand washing station lacks soap dispenser. Employee bathroom door doesn't self-close. Grease trap appears to be overdue for cleaning. Ashley's voice remained neutral, professional, devastating. "Look, Inspector Wilson," James's voice cracked slightly on her title. "Surely we can work something out. These are minor issues, easily corrected." Ashley looked up from her clipboard, and for a moment, James saw something in her expression that made his blood run cold. It wasn't anger or vindictiveness, it was the calm satisfaction of a job well done. "Mr. Bradford, I'm afraid these violations represent serious health code breaches. I'm going to have to recommend immediate closure pending correction of all cited issues." The dining room fell silent as Ashley emerged from the kitchen, her clipboard thick with violation notices. James followed behind her, like a condemned man walking to his execution. His face ashen, his earlier confidence completely evaporated. "Ladies and gentlemen," Ashley announced to the crowded restaurant, her voice carrying clearly through the sudden quiet. "I'm Inspector Wilson from the County Health Department. Due to serious health code violations, this establishment must cease food service immediately." A collective gasp rippled through the dining room. The mayor's wife clutched her pearl necklace. Steve Collins looked like he might faint. Amanda, the hostess, began frantically apologizing to guests who were already reaching for their coats. James grabbed Ashley's arm, then immediately released it when she looked at him with professional disapproval. "You can't do this to me. Not like this. Not in front of everyone." Ashley turned to face him fully, her expression calm and utterly controlled. "Mr. Bradford, I'm simply doing my job, ensuring that this community receives the level of service they deserve." The word service hung in the air between them, loaded with 2 years' worth of meaning. "I know who you are now. Ashley Wilson. You used to work for me. This is about revenge, isn't it?" Ashley's smile was small, professional, and absolutely devastating. "Mr. Bradford, I don't know what you mean. I'm just a public servant doing my job. Though I suppose you're right about one thing. Some people are meant for bigger things." She handed him the violation notice, their fingers brushing briefly. "You have 30 days to correct these issues and request a reinspection. Have a good evening." Ashley walked out of Bella Vista into the cool night air, leaving behind a restaurant full of disappointed diners and one very broken man. Her heels clicked against the sidewalk with the same steady rhythm as her heartbeat. Her phone buzzed. "Katie, how was your mysterious errand?" Ashley typed back, "Just doing some quality control." As she walked past the corner diner, she could see Tom Anderson through the window, wiping down tables for the next day's service. The warm light spilling onto the sidewalk felt like a beacon, a reminder of honest work and genuine respect. Ashley paused outside the diner's window and caught her reflection in the glass. She looked the same as she had 3 months ago,
But something fundamental had changed. She wasn't just Ashley Wilson, the waitress, anymore. She was Ashley Wilson, inspector. Ashley Wilson, who had learned that the best revenge wasn't served hot or cold. It was served with official documentation and a professional smile. James Bradford had taught her something valuable 2 years ago, that some people looked down on service workers, believing them to be less than. What he'd failed to understand was that service came in many forms. Tonight, she'd served justice, and the customer was always right.
The corner diner hummed with its usual morning energy. Ashley poured coffee for Harold and Betty, who smiled up at her with genuine warmth. "Did you hear about that fancy restaurant that closed down?" Betty asked, stirring sugar into her oatmeal. "Bella Vista, I think it was called." "Health code violations, I heard," Harold added, shaking his head. "Just goes to show you can't substitute flashy decor for honest cooking." Ashley refilled their coffee cups, her movements as practiced and graceful as ever. "I suppose everyone learns eventually that there's no substitute for doing things the right way." Through the window, she could see the empty storefront that had once housed James Bradford's dreams. A for rent sign hung in the window, slightly crooked, already gathering dust. Katie appeared at Ashley's elbow, grinning broadly. "Hey, did you hear? The county health department is hiring. They're looking for experienced inspectors." Ashley smiled, wiping her hands on her apron. "Is that so?" "Yeah, apparently they need someone who really understands customer service." Ashley laughed, a sound full of quiet satisfaction. "Well, I suppose I should keep my options open. After all, you never know when you might want to try something new." She looked once more at the empty restaurant across the street, then turned back to her customers, her friends, her chosen family at the corner diner. Some lessons were worth waiting for. Some services were worth the patience it took to deliver them properly. And sometimes, the most devastating revenge was simply being exactly who you were meant to be.